Mother-in-law threatens to cut us from will for not having kids. Has meltdown when we move away after husband's promotion. I, 31F, have been married to my husband, 33M, for 5 years, and we dated for 3 years before that. My parents are very relaxed, so they never forced me to do anything that I didn't want to do, or anything that I personally didn't feel like doing. But my mother-in-law was the total opposite. She was constantly nagging us to get married when we were dating, because we were already over 25, and it was embarrassing for her to tell her friends that her son was still unmarried. Once we did get married, she demanded that we get pregnant. We got married because we felt that the timing was right, not because of my mother-in-law's nagging. But because I wasn't ready to have a child, we tried to explain to her that it was just not the right time for us, but she didn't stop. For 5 years, she's been trying to convince us to have a baby. My father-in-law told my husband to just stay quiet and let her say what she has to say because my mother-in-law was the one in charge in their household. While that's a good thing for girl power, it sucks for us personally because my mother-in-law is just really annoying and cares more about what the world will think than what we think. It's more important for her to be able to show off to her friends to win their approval. Her friends are all a bunch of old ladies in their 60s, so they only talk about their kids and grandkids and what's going on in their lives. My husband has told his mother to stop bugging us about grandkids several times over the years, but she's never paid any heed to his words. He even spoke to his father, but like I said, my father-in-law is just powerless when it comes to his wife and refused to say a word. He told us to just suck it up, or else it would lead to a lot of drama, and none of us would like it. We did that because we wanted to avoid any confrontation, but with time it got harder to not snap at my mother-in-law. I finally lost my cool with her 2 weeks ago when they'd come over for dinner, and I was trying to work in the kitchen, but she kept talking about some herbal tea that helps in getting pregnant. So, I ended up telling her that if she's so interested in babies, then maybe she should have one herself instead of bothering me about it. That shut her up, and I don't even regret it, not after what happened today. She didn't bring up babies or pregnancy the next few times we met, which my husband and I were thankful for. We meet quite often since my mother-in-law lives close and has no boundaries, so she just drops in any time she pleases. But after my remark, she reduced the number of visits considerably, and even when she did, she'd only talk to her son and avoid me like the plague. I was kind of afraid that maybe I'd pissed her off really badly, and we couldn't afford to do that if we wanted to inherit all their money and house. I know it seems shallow and selfish to want to stick around your in-laws just for the inheritance, but they are quite well off, and my husband also believes that life will be easy for us if we have that sort of money. It's self-centered, but it's practical, and is a huge part of the reason that we've even put up with my mother-in-law's crap for so long. Besides, we live near one another, so it seemed pointless to pick a fight with my mother-in-law over just a few annoying habits when we only needed to put up with her for a few years before my husband was finally promoted at his company, and we moved to a different house. This house had been a wedding gift from my in-laws, which is why it was so close to them in the first place. But when we had enough saved, we'd definitely be moving out because my husband couldn't stand living so close to his parents either, as it really limited our independence, especially because of how nosy his mother is. Around 3 days ago, it finally happened. The promotion that my husband had been working towards for the past 5 years. All his hard work had paid off, and now not only was he getting his own office, but he was also getting a huge raise. He works in a bank, and I'm a realtor, so our salaries were enough to let us lead a comfortable life, but not enough for us to qualify as rich. After this promotion, though, we're rich. I don't mean to brag, but my husband did work hard, and he paid his dues, while I took care of the household alongside my job since he also had to work late into the night on several occasions. So, we've earned this. The thing that we were happiest about was the fact that we could finally move out soon, and we wouldn't have to deal with his interfering mother anymore. He loves his parents, but even he agrees that his mother can be a little too much to handle sometimes, which is why he was sort of relieved that she wasn't coming over that often after I snapped at her. We decided to host them for dinner one last time before we started looking for houses, and I already had quite a few that I liked since I was in the business myself. It was a little premature on our part, but we really just wanted to let them know and celebrate this occasion. So, tonight we invited them over for dinner. My mother-in-law was in a mood when she arrived and hardly even smiled or said a word to me, but I didn't care about that. At the dinner table, it was only my father-in-law who did most of the talking, while my mother-in-law sulked and refused to participate. After dinner, it was finally time for us to announce our big news. But before we could say a word, my mother-in-law stood up and told us that she had an announcement to make. We decided to let her go first because we wanted to save the best for last, and I'm honestly so thankful that we did because she told us that she'd removed my husband from her will and was soon going to make sure that his father removed him from his will, too. That is, unless we're able to give her a grandchild within a year. She even told us that, at this point, she didn't even care if we adopted or if we had a baby through surrogacy. She just wanted a grandkid, and that was it. We were a shame and an embarrassment to her, and she couldn't take it anymore. We were accused of depriving her of the happiness of becoming a grandma on purpose, and unless that changed soon, my husband wouldn't get a single penny out of his inheritance, and it would all go to charity instead. It was all just so ridiculous that we hardly had anything to say to her. Even my father-in-law was staring at her with his mouth open, so clearly. She hadn't consulted him before making this decision, and he had no idea this was going to happen. I'm pretty sure that this was brought on by my behavior a few weeks back, but I hadn't thought that she'd take things this far and actually cut my husband out of her will. Unfortunately for her, that didn't feel like a real threat to us anymore. Maybe it would have felt bad a couple of months ago when we really would have needed her money, but not anymore. Since my husband was going to be earning more than enough, we didn't have to count on his inheritance or help from his parents in case of any financial trouble at all. We'd be just fine on our own now, which is why I told her the truth just a few minutes after she announced what she'd done and how we brought her shame. I filled her in on the purpose of the dinner that we hosted tonight, and once she learned that her son was now in a prestigious position at the bank, not just a mere employee, her face actually fell. She'd spent ages shaming my husband for how he wasn't doing enough in his career, but now he was finally at a level where he'd have several people working under him, and he was relatively young as well, so it was a huge achievement for him. But my mother-in-law was ruining it all, so I told her that I wasn't going to let her stand here and spoil this day for us. If she really felt this way, that we were an embarrassment for her just because we were childless, then she should probably just leave it. She was dumbfounded by my outburst because now she knew that she'd messed up and she couldn't take back the words that she'd already said. Also, if we moved away and decided to cut ties with her, she'd no longer be able to brag to her friends about what a successful man her son was because her son wouldn't even be visiting her anymore, and that'd be way more embarrassing than us not having a child. She probably realized these things just as soon as I told her that she needed to leave, since she couldn't just stand in our house and insult us. So, she quickly tried to take it all back by putting on a fake smile, trying to congratulate her son, and talking about how she always knew he had it in him, and that grandkids can wait. All of a sudden. Then my husband, who had also regained his composure after what his mother had announced, looked very upset when his mother tried to hug him. He took a step back and finally snapped at her. For me, it was just 5 years of pent-up anger, since that's how long I've been married to my husband and had to deal with my mother-in-law. But my poor husband has had to deal with this woman his entire life, so I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been for him. Finally, my husband said that if his mother couldn't respect us and just let us live our lives, she would never see him again, and that meant no contact with us, no visits, no gifts, nothing. We were done. It wasn't until after that moment that my mother-in-law realized just how serious we were, and she left in tears. I'm just relieved it's over.